I want to take you on a journey through one of humanity's most fundamental inventions, one you're wearing right now. Clothing isn't just fabric and thread. It's technology, older than the wheel, more universal than written language. What began as simple protection against the elements became something far more profound, a canvas for identity, a marker of culture, and a reflection of who we are. Over 100,000 years ago, our ancestors faced a critical challenge: survival in hostile environments. They turned to what was available: animal skins, plant fibers, anything that could shield them from cold, injury, and the unforgiving elements. This wasn't fashion. This was function at its most essential. The archaeological record supports this beautifully. Bone needles dating back more than 40,000 years tell us that early humans weren't just draping hides over their shoulders. They were sewing, tailoring, and problem-solving with remarkable sophistication. These early garments were survival gear, pure and simple. But even then, something interesting was happening. The act of creating clothing required planning, skill, and cooperation. It demanded an understanding of materials and their properties. In choosing how to protect themselves, our ancestors were already beginning to shape their identity, even if they didn't know it yet. As humans settled into civilizations, clothing evolved from mere protection into something more organized and symbolic. The Egyptians mastered linen production, creating lightweight fabrics perfect for their hot, dry climate. In Mesopotamia, wool became the textile of choice, suited to their pastoral economy and cooler nights. Meanwhile, the Indus Valley cultures were cultivating and weaving cotton, a fiber that would eventually clothe much of the world. Each civilization adapted its clothing technology to its environment and resources. But the real leap forward was the loom. Weaving transformed clothing production from a simple craft into an economic force. Textiles became tradable goods, markers of wealth, and symbols of cultural achievement. The ability to create complex patterns and durable fabrics required not just individual skill, but social organization. Workshops, trade networks, and specialized knowledge passed down through generations. Clothing was becoming civilization's fabric, literally and figuratively. In classical Greece and Rome, what you wore announced who you were before you spoke a word. The toga wasn't just a garment. It was a citizenship card, a status symbol, a political statement. Only Roman citizens could wear the toga, and its style, color, and draping indicated your rank, profession, and even your political allegiances. Greek tunics followed similar logic, with length, fabric quality, and accessories marking social boundaries as clearly as any written law. This trend intensified during the Middle Ages. Sumptuary laws, actual legislation, dictated who could wear what based on class and profession. Purple dye was reserved for royalty. Certain fabrics were forbidden to peasants. Guild members wore identifying marks. Clothing had become a rigid language of hierarchy, and everyone could read it. Fashion wasn't about personal expression. It was about maintaining social order through visible, enforceable codes. The Industrial Revolution changed everything. What had been painstaking handwork, spinning, weaving, sewing, became mechanized. Textile mills transformed raw materials into finished fabrics at speeds that would have seemed magical to earlier generations. The sewing machine, patented in the mid-1800s, made garment construction faster and more standardized. For the first time in human history, clothing became truly affordable and widely available. This wasn't just an economic shift. It was a social one. Mass production meant that ordinary people could own multiple outfits, could replace worn clothing more easily, could even begin to follow fashion trends that had previously been the exclusive domain of the wealthy. The clothing gap between classes didn't disappear, but it narrowed. Mechanization democratized dress in ways that would have profound effects on the century to come. The 20th century accelerated everything. Global trade networks brought materials and styles from every corner of the world. Mass media, magazines, cinema, television, broadcast fashion trends to millions simultaneously. Social movements challenged dress codes and used clothing as protest. Women's liberation, youth culture, civil rights, each found expression through what people chose to wear. Clothing became a statement, a rebellion, a conversation. Ready-to-wear fashion emerged, making designer styles accessible through standardized sizing in department stores. Fashion cycles sped up, driven by seasonal collections and marketing. Subcultures developed their own dress codes: punk, hip-hop, grunge, each using clothing to signal identity and values. By century's end, clothing had become one of the most visible ways humans expressed individuality while simultaneously signaling group belonging. The tension between those two impulses, uniqueness and belonging, would define modern fashion. Today's clothing exists at the intersection of multiple forces. We demand function, performance fabrics that wick moisture, regulate temperature, protect from UV radiation. We seek identity, clothing that expresses our values, affiliations, and aesthetic preferences. We're increasingly conscious of sustainability, the environmental and human cost of fast fashion, the need for ethical sourcing, the potential of recycling and circular production models. And we're integrating technology, smart textiles that monitor health, fabrics made from unexpected materials like mushrooms or recycled ocean plastic. Modern clothing is more diverse, more accessible, and more complex than at any point in history. A single outfit might contain synthetic fibers developed in laboratories, natural materials grown on farms, components manufactured on 3 continents, and design influences from a dozen cultures. We're more aware than ever of clothing's impact, environmental, social, economic, and we're beginning to reimagine what this ancient technology might become. From animal hides to haute couture, from survival necessity to personal expression, clothing has been with us every step of our journey as a species. It protected us from the cold of the Ice Age and the heat of the desert. It marked our civilizations and announced our status. It adapted to our technologies and reflected our values. What began as the simplest solution to a physical problem became one of the most complex languages we speak, a language without words, understood across cultures, constantly evolving. Clothing is where environment, culture, and technology meet on the surface of our skin, and its story is far from over. The next time you get dressed, you're participating in a practice over 100,000 years old. You're making choices that connect you to every human who ever sought protection, expressed identity, or signaled belonging through what they wore. From the first stitched hide to tomorrow's smart fabrics, we've been weaving our story into every thread. And that story continues with every choice we make about what to wear and why.